You must have heard the Prime Minister and Energy Minister Chris Bowen say 1,000 times that wind and solar power is the cheapest there is and coal has got to go.
We know the cheapest form of new energy is renewables.
The cheapest, most reliable and cleanest form of energy, which is renewables.
Except a curious thing or two. For a start, the more wind and power we get, the higher power prices go. Have you noticed? And that's been the experience around the world as well, because look, the more renewables a country gets, the more expensive their power bills tend to be. Big surprise. But very important news. It seems the CSIRO, our top science body that's been right into the climate scare, may just have admitted that actually, yes, coal might be cheaper than wind and solar power when you back wind and solar power up. Even if it won't say that out loud. It's done this in its latest report, its GenCost report for this year, in which it's also admitted, big surprise again, that this government's green power switch may actually cost more than first thought. Well, at least first thought by the government and the CSIRO. Joining me is Zoe Hilton, a Senior Policy Analyst at the Centre for Independent Studies and a former Senior Policy Advisor to the New South Wales Government. Zoe, thanks for your time. The CSIRO is still out there saying, no, wind and solar is going to be the cheapest new energy there is. But you have dug into the figures in its report. What do they show? And let me just start with this graphic that you have pulled out comparing coal with VRE. VRE meaning variable renewable energy, wind and solar. What should these confusing figures tell us?
So the CSIRO's GenCost report very clearly shows in the data that black coal is the cheapest new build generation technology. They don't look at brown coal though, just saying that. But $111 per megawatt hour, you can see on that chart, it's very clear that black coal wins. It is cheaper than all of the 60, 70, 80, 90% variable renewable energy shares. And then when you look at the midpoints of those ranges as well, coal is cheaper than 90% wind and solar when it is integrated into the grid. And that's very important because 90% wind and solar is what we're building. And so the CSIRO, in their media release, what they've said is that not coal, but renewables remain the lowest cost new build energy generation technology, which is the exact opposite of what their own data says. So this is quite a shocking cherry pick that they have done for their media release. And it's quite shocking as well because they say that they are transparent. They call their GenCost report transparent. And then they say in their own report that their modelling for the renewables integration costs is not suitable for general release. And we've asked time and time again for them to release this modelling, and apparently it's so embarrassingly bad that they can't even release it.
Well, how confused, how surprising again. This show is full of surprises. Zoe, they still say, oh, no, you know, by 2050, whatever it is, when they're meeting it, no, you know, wind and solar will be the cheapest. Now, they do that through a fiddle. Tell us about the fiddle.
So in terms of the 2024 analysis, that's what we just saw. Coal is clearly cheapest, but the 2030 analysis, renewables do look cheaper than coal. And the way that they do that is they say, oh, well, by 2030, we will have built all of these things that support renewables. So things like Snowy 2.0, which is at $12 billion and counting, and more pumped hydro projects, a lot more batteries. We've got gas peakers, a whole bunch of transmission projects which are going to be more billions of dollars that are added onto consumer bills. All of that, everything that is built before 2030, they just assume, okay, it's going to be free and we don't have to count that in the renewables cost. And so then, of course, renewables are going to look cheaper. And that's not all. They also assume very pessimistic assumptions for coal. So they assume that instead of building the same type of plant that we've built time and time again in Australia, we would have to build an advanced ultra supercritical plant. So a plant like that they assume with unprecedented steam temperatures and pressures, that hasn't been built anywhere else in the world. So I don't know why they would choose a plant design that we have never built and no one else has built either instead of a proven design. And they exclude brownfield projects. So that means they don't look at, can we build a coal plant on an existing site, which very much we can. There is plenty of space for new coal units on existing sites, which would save a lot of money in terms of roads, transport for the coal, all of that infrastructure. They assume we have to build on a greenfield site. And so all of those extra costs, like a train line to get the coal to the coal plant, all of that is added in, and that pushes up the price of coal. And then you look at the coal fuel prices, they cherry pick those as well, because they have a number of different values for the low and the high ranges, and they take the average of the low values and the absolute maximum of the high values. So it's this very asymmetrical way that they choose fuel prices, and that ends up having the coal high price range be much higher than realistically it should be.
So it's got two thumbs on the scale, and the reason why it should be counting the extra transmission lines, the Snowy 2.0, which is supposed to be a sort of battery for excess wind and solar for when we need it, and all those other things you mentioned, is that you don't need them unless it is to back up wind and solar, because wind and solar doesn't always work. I looked at 6 o'clock this morning, and wind and solar provided only 5% of the country's power. Who do you think has to supply the rest? I mean, it's unbelievable. Look, Zoe Hilton, it is a scam. The CSIRO is being dishonest again, like it was with the costings of the nuclear power plants. And thank you so much for exposing it. Really appreciate it.